And thank you all for attending today. My name is Daniel Petrell. I am the Senior Director of Strategic Communications, and today you are in this specially scheduled webinar, Is Your Advertising Compliant with the Law? It's a very important topic, and we are going to have a lot of attendees today, so thank you for your interest in keeping yourself in compliance. Today, we're joined by the Executive Director of Maryland Real Estate, Michael Kasnick. Thank you, Michael, for joining us. And joining him are two members of our legal affairs team, Director of Legal Affairs, Kathleen D'Artes, and Staff Attorney Drew Kelly. If you have any questions, please place them in the Q&A box below. Please do not put your questions in the chat box. If you place your questions in the Q&A box, we may be able to get to your questions or answers to your questions after the webinar is over. Finally, this webinar is being recorded. We will share this recording and any slide decks as you are currently seeing with you ideally early next week. And with that, I would like to now take the pleasure of introducing our Director of Legal Affairs, Kathleen D'Artes, who will take it over from here. Kathleen.
Great. Thanks, Dan. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. I would say, if you're like me, grab your coffee and listen up. We'll be talking about advertising for an hour. Just briefly, our agenda for today, we're going to start with broker supervision, sort of the broad concepts first, broker supervision, and then a definition and understanding of what real estate brokerage services are. So we'll start with that, and then we'll transition into advertising and some of the general requirements under Maryland law regarding advertising. We'll run through the Maryland Real Estate Commission advertising checklist briefly. And then we're going to go through the updates, which are some changes with respect to team advertising and information on electronic advertising through electronic media, specifically the one-click rule, some recent updates with the Real Estate Commission. And we are delighted that we have Michael Kasnick here, who's the Executive Director of the Maryland Real Estate Commission. I know that's the reason why a large number of you registered. So again, as Dan had said, ask your questions in the Q&A. Drew and I will monitor those as we're going through the class, and hopefully we'll be able to address most of them during the presentation. If not, hopefully we'll be able to respond afterwards. But remember, questions in the Q&A, not the chat. All right, Drew, you want to get started with the slide deck?
Yes, thank you. And if we may, Michael, can you give us a little bit of background, maybe a broader overview of what led us here, what led us to some of the changes we'll be going over today? Oh, Michael, you're on mute. Sorry. You're on mute.
Yeah, I was also dialed in. I don't like my headset.
Oh, sorry. Sorry about that. Yeah, so Drew just was asking about if there was if you want to give sort of an overview of what the Real Estate Commission, what the process was with respect to these updates, the recent updates, and essentially how we got here, what the process was from the Real Estate Commission's perspective.
Michael, the headset isn't working. So we can't hear the microphone. Hey, Michael. We can't hear you talking on the microphone.
All right, I don't want to be rude, but I think just in the interim, maybe he's having some audio problems. I'll just go ahead and start talking just briefly. We were going to start. Is Michael back? Can we hear him now? I'm sorry.
That's okay. I can hear you all perfectly. Can you hear me now?
Now we can hear you. Yep.
Okay, I'll stay on the phone. So yeah, the commission saw a lot of advertising violations, and we started a course probably about 4 years ago, actually even before I got here, so further ago than that, on making courtesy calls. And really that deals with things on a one-on-one basis. But with 50,000 licensees, we really needed more overarching solution because it doesn't get solved one-on-one. So we didn't want to just start advertising these as complaints without providing some benefit. So there was an advertising task force created. We heard from brokers, we heard from consumers, we heard from licensees, and of course the commissioners were part of that as well. And part of it was to give you licensees tools to aid and assist in, hey, what exactly is a good advertisement? What's it look like? And that was the generation of the advertising checklist. Because our advertising laws are spread over, multiple parts of the law and regulation, particularly if you drill down into teams and that kind of thing. So it wasn't just to start enforcing things, it was give them a tool, help them start enforcing things, and then message the brokers. Because let me step back for just a second for advertising. Maryland is a broker-centric state. You can't do real estate brokerage services in Maryland unless you're affiliated with a broker. So the other arm of that was to message to brokers that they need the systems and processes in place to review advertisements as they're tasked to do under the law and make sure that these things comply. So if I'm a broker and I have, my licensees with an advertising checklist, perhaps I have a branch office manager who's reviewing these advertisements, and then also myself, then, obviously we would get to where we needed to be through those mechanisms. And again, I heard Mr. Ortez mention broker supervision. That's something that also really emphasizes the fact that, we're a broker-centric state and brokers are tasked with these things, even though there is, independent contractor status for many licensees in Maryland. What we heard was basically, from some brokerages, obviously not all, but enough that, these folks are independent contractors, I really can't oversee them. Well, if you're doing something if I'm a broker and you're doing something under my license in my name, basically, yeah, I need to be able to do things to you. And that's, one of the reasons why the broker supervision course was updated to kind of reflect that. And then you throw in teams and you've got a whole new thing that you need to worry about because teams have very specific advertising rules as well, and we do have that separate sheet that Mr. Ortez spoke about as well that we'll likely go over later. So really, with systems and processes in place, the tools at your disposal, and the ability to ask questions at multiple levels, we're hoping we don't have to do the complaints and the fines and that piece, but that is something that if required, obviously is open.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, I would just to reinforce what Michael had said, Maryland definitely is a broker-centric state. And just from having attended sales meetings and doing what we do on our end, I can assure you that the Real Estate Commission's advertising checklist was very beneficial and very appreciated by our members, and I would assume by all licensees. So that's a really helpful tool for supervisors. And again, just supervisors would include team leaders, office managers, and brokers. And even in the broad context of today's discussion, one of the things we really want everyone to remember is that part of broker supervision is for team leaders, office managers, and brokers to supervise, the people who are, within your team, your office, or your entire brokerage, to supervise them. And specifically today, we're going to focus on advertising. And that means the broker is responsible, the office manager is responsible, the team leader is responsible for reviewing those advertisements before they're placed. And that's really why we're starting out with broker supervision, to reinforce that concept. People shouldn't just be, agents, licensees shouldn't just be running out and placing ads. There should be a process in place where those ads are reviewed by someone at the supervisory level. So again, the exact phrase that's used here, the broker, the office manager, the team leader are required. This is, again, Maryland law. This is not a suggestion or a good idea. This is Maryland law, right? You are required to exercise reasonable and adequate supervision over the provision of real estate brokerage services by any individual, including independent contractors, as Michael had said, on behalf of the broker.
That's right. And also, regardless of the manner in which the individual who provides the services is affiliated with the real estate broker, that supervision requirement still exists. So as Kathleen and Michael said, even an independent contractor, no matter the position within the brokerage, that supervision requirement stands.
Right. Drew, do you want to focus just for a second on what provision of real estate brokerage services is? I think we've got some information on that, maybe.
Yeah,
On
we
that slide.
do. So what are those real estate brokerage services that, someone under a broker might be providing, and what essentially that means what you as a broker are responsible for overseeing. So it's any of the following services from another person within the brokerage, selling, buying, exchanging, or leasing any real estate, or collecting rent for the use of any real estate, for consideration, so, for compensation, assisting another person to locate or obtain for purchase or lease any residential real estate, engaging regularly in a business of dealing in real estate or leases or options on real estate. And then where a lot of our focus will be on today because of advertising, engaging in a business where the primary purpose of which is promoting the sale of real estate through a listing in a publication issued primarily for the promotion of real estate sales. So through the listing in a publication, with today's advances in technology, that's social media, that's any form of listing in a publication, getting the word out, advertising your properties, your services. That is a broker, real estate brokerage service, and thus the broker is responsible for overseeing that. Continuing on, engaging in a business that subdivides land that is located in any state and sells the divided lots, or for consideration, serving as a consultant regarding any activity. So again, independent contractor, anyone with agency to that broker and under that brokerage.
And again, our focus today is going to be, it's really limited to advertising today.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, you want to start with this, I guess, Drew?
So yeah, just I was going to go over. So again, MREC has created this great advertising checklist. It's available right on their website. But the word advertise under Maryland Code means the use of any oral, written, or visual advertisement by a licensed real estate salesperson, broker, associate broker, or any other person on behalf of a licensed real estate salesperson. So any oral, written, or visual advertisement has to be compliant. So I'll go ahead and pull up the checklist.
All right. I can talk about the checklist a little bit. We really, Michael, correct me if I'm wrong. It's my understanding, I believe that the commission is going to update this checklist to reflect some of the recent changes. But the checklist as is still pretty good. I wanted to focus just on a couple of these things. Again, this is sort of our overview of advertising in general. We're not really at the changes yet. But specifically, I would remind people of the first one, the name of the licensee, right? Advertisements, the name of the licensee, the full name of the licensee, exactly as it appears on the license, is required to be on the ad. I'm only going to mention a couple of these, but you'll in 2 minutes, you'll know why I'm focusing on a few of these. The broker's name, right? The name of the company has to be meaningfully and conspicuously displayed. That's the third one down there as well. And then the next one is the phone number. It's a telephone number of the broker or office manager. Does the advertisement include the identified phone number of the broker or office manager? And then down towards the bottom, maybe scroll down a little bit more, Drew, there's team advertising, right? And team advertising, there's some guidance there already. Does the advertisement include the full name of the licensee as the name appears on the license and the name of the team? Is the team name directly linked to the name of the brokerage using of, from, or with? There's a slight modification on that. But those are the ones I wanted to focus on. And the reason why is just to give everybody a heads up. The Real Estate Commission recently has taken some enforcement action do not throw virtual tomatoes at the executive director here. It's entirely within the scope of what the Real Estate Commission is supposed to do. And it's good for all of us. If the rules are in place, the rules should be enforced, quite frankly. Recently, there was a disciplinary action where a licensee was disciplined for, let me make sure I have the facts straight. One of the licensees who was disciplined, the advertisement did not include the licensee's name, or the licensee's name was not meaningfully and conspicuously displayed, right? Which is a requirement. So in that case, the licensee was disciplined. It was a consent order. They agreed to the discipline, but that licensee was fined $2,500. And listen up, this is important. Not only was the licensee, had to pay a fine of $2,500 for not complying with the advertising requirements, the broker had to pay a fine. Again, it was a consent order, but the broker had to pay a fine of $3,500 for failure to reasonably and adequately supervise that agent by not reviewing the advertisement in advance. So that was one case. Again, $2,500 to the agent, $3,500 to the broker. There was another disciplinary action as well, a very similar fact pattern, I think slightly different deficiencies. In that one, there was no company name, no company phone number, and again, no licensee name. In that case as well, there were consent orders. The licensee, the agent, was fined $2,500, and the broker was fined $3,500. And I know we've talked about this in class a little bit, and that usually gets people's eyes popping. But before the webinar, Drew and I had a conversation with Michael, and he reminded us of some facts. Michael, do you want to remind everybody listening that what the actual number?
Yeah. So I mean, the upper end of each violation under the Brokers Act is a fine, and obviously suspension and other things that we can do to the license itself, but it is a fine of up to $5,000. And let's be quite honest, the commission doesn't want to collect this money. That's not our goal. Our goal is to have people comply, use the advertising checklist, have the supervisory levels do their part, and have all good advertisements in Maryland. That is the goal. But again, those other options are available if the goals aren't met.
And to answer a question from Suzanne, she's an office manager, so she can communicate these rules to her office and to all of the agents within her office. But reviewing all social media posts doesn't seem feasible to her. If it's a large office, someone's going to go send out an Instagram post. Would that fall outside of reasonable and adequate supervision, reviewing all agents' posts? And Kathleen, I'll let you answer, but
yeah, I don't think the expectation is that someone would review everyone's, everything that all of your agents posted on social media. I think as was it Susan who asked the question, you're exactly correct. You would be doing nothing but looking at social media all day, every day. I think reasonable and adequate supervision would mean that you have a sales meeting, right? That you communicate with your agents and make them aware, make sure that they know what the rules are, make sure they understand what the rules are, provide them with a copy of the Real Estate Commission's advertising checklist. And they really should, if they're going to use different advertising, or they're going to post something in some platform they haven't used before, make sure they're comfortable coming to you with their questions. But you should speak with them about, what do their Facebook ads look like in general, before they're going to post, give them the information beforehand. And again, any good supervisor, I think you do have to do some spot checking afterwards, and just make sure that people are compliant. And I think honestly, sort of deferring a little bit to what Michael had said, most people, I don't think, run out and file a complaint with the Real Estate Commission about an agent. I think sometimes you'll get a phone call from another broker who will give you a heads up. Hey, one of my agents let me know that they saw this ad from one of your agents. And, if in the past anyone was brushing that off or not taking that seriously, that's a $3,500 mistake or potentially a $5,000 mistake. So I think that might be how you do it. Give them plenty of guidance and instruction up front. Give them the checklist, give them the tools, let them understand the rules, communicate regularly, create an environment where they feel free to come and ask you questions and ask for guidance when needed. Do a spot check periodically, but I would say especially do respond if someone gives you a heads up that someone's ads may not be in compliance. You really should respond to that and look into that immediately, or potentially risk a fine. Michael, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, you've hit a lot of it. Obviously, the interpretation of reasonable and adequate, is determined later on in the process in terms of, if there's a complaint filed and it moves forward. But yeah, it's giving them the tools. It's certainly, the requirement in the law is to review. So that still stands. I can't not say that. But of course, the other part is to actually follow up. And as Mr. Ortez said, many times, well, on a few occasions, we have received advertising, complaints from licensees, which is a requirement of the law as well. And that wasn't their first step in many cases. In many cases, it was, I contacted the broker, I contacted the licensee, and they said, I don't really care, I'm not going to listen to you. Well, that usually lends people to then pursue, if they're looking to do the right things for a profession, that leads them to pursue the other mechanism, which is a formal complaint. So yeah, certainly if somebody's telling you something isn't right, then take a good look at it, view it as constructive criticism, and the ability to change it before it goes further.
And save yourself some money. Another question, the term publication issued primarily for the purpose of selling real estate can be confusing. Obviously, for example, the Baltimore Sun's primary purpose is to distribute news, not selling real estate. But the point is that the advertisement you place in the Baltimore Sun's purpose is to sell real estate, to advertise real estate, and thus must be compliant.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
So moving on,
Yeah, this
team
would be
advertising.
team advertising now specifically. Previously we were talking about sort of advertising in general. Now we're narrowing the scope a little bit to focus on team advertising.
Right, and so it's important under this new regulation, the term directly connected. So directly connecting the team name to the broker name. And there are these magic words. They came up with a list of 4 magic words. The word of, from, with, or at is the only word between the team name and the brokerage name. So those are the only 4 acceptable conjunctions between the brokerage name and the team name. No other word or symbol or image is between the team name and the brokerage name. So the only way that your team name is directly connected to the broker name is under A and B, one of those 4 words, and no other word, symbol, or image between the team name and brokerage.
I'll just add, this is it is additional guidance, obviously, what is directly connected to, but just if you look back at the real estate commission's advertising checklist we just looked at, that already had the words of, from, and with. So at is really the only change. This has actually been in place for a while, but again, it's additional guidance. It is part of the code of ethics now. Of, from, with, or at. Yeah, we're calling them the magic words. I wanted to ask Michael a question or two. I didn't say I'm going to ask questions too, but I am.
Sure,
so let's say if I have a team name, my team name is D'Artes and Associates, right? So I, on the corner of my ad, I've got D'Artes and Associates, and then directly underneath it, I have the name of my company, ABC Realty Company. I don't have of, from, with, or at, but the team name is right next to the brokerage name, right next to the company name. Is that acceptable if I don't have those words, or do I have to say the D'Artes and Associates of, ABC?
Yeah, I would submit that the word needs to be there, and the reason is this, really. So, we are all we understand the industry, we understand advertisement. The whole point of advertising law is to make it easy for consumers. And I'm not talking about, any consumer that you necessarily have in your head. Pick, the person who doesn't have access to internet. Pick the person who, is not somebody who's bought and sold houses a lot or anything like that. And if you think of it through that prism, we want them to know who they're dealing with. And I see the signature blocks come in, and it's, I'm the CEO and president and founder and all these things. And I get it. That's your LLC. So that's a true and accurate picture. But if I'm a consumer who's not up in real estate and understanding all those things, I'm not sure if you're the broker of the company. I don't know that you're an LLC that's underneath a broker and paid that way. All I know is that it looks like you're the boss. Well, if you're a salesperson, you're not. The broker is. And the opportunity there, and I get people who do this all the time, and they're welcome too. Who's your boss? Well, as a real estate licensee, it needs to be out in the advertisement who your boss is and how can I get in touch with them. In my case, you need to call me and then I'll tell you and I'll give them the information. But, the requirements in the law for a real estate licensee is that it's all there. So that if they're having an issue with you, they can contact that broker. And let's view this, I try and view it as a benefit to everybody. It's a benefit to the consumer because they can air their grievance. It's a benefit to the broker because they can hear that and maybe say, oh, well, it's a miscommunication issue, or we can take care of this. And then it's a learning opportunity for licensees who maybe just didn't see eye to eye with this customer. And then they can take the mentoring steps to fix that. And maybe the sale goes through and everybody's happy.
Hopefully the sale goes through and everyone's happy. Yes. Yeah. So thank you for clarifying that. Yeah. All right. So that's really it with team advertising. And again, the significant change, I guess, is just some clarification. The team name has to be directly connected to the name of the brokerage. And the clarification is the 4 magic words, right? Of, from, with, or at. So that's our team advertising update, right? No other word, similar image is between the team name and the brokerage name. That's pretty straightforward. I think I would hope that's clear enough to everyone. Should we move on to the next change, I guess, or the next revision? This is going to be with respect to advertising using electronic media, and we'll transition into talking about the one-click rule, and Michael can go through some guidance there or clarification on that, perhaps. This is in the COMAR, right? The Code of Ethics, relations to the public. This is where this modification was made. I'll just read this out loud, I guess. For the purposes of this regulation, advertisement means any representation, promotion, or solicitation directed to consumers by any means of communication for any purpose concerning the provision of real estate brokerage services. So I think Drew had alluded to this earlier, very broad definition, and reflecting changes in technology. Real estate advertisements used to be on the back page of the Baltimore Sun, real estate section, and now it really is. There's all kinds of platforms and apps. So it's a broad concept. Advertising is basically any means of communication for any purpose connected to providing real estate brokerage services.
Yeah, and when I first got here, I read that and thought different opinions on it, and the way I view it is this: when you send an email to the real estate commission asking for some kind of assistance, your signature block at the bottom should comply. Because if one of my staff decides that they want to deal with a licensee and they've had good relations with you, they're going to call you, right? So that advertisement, that signature block, is a means to connect with you, so it needs to comply as well. And to get back to what Mr. Artez said about the one-click. So one-click is a term actually used locally in Virginia first. In our law, we looked at their law, and it's different, so it's not exactly the same. Because we were sensitive to some of the things that, let's face it, marketing is creative, okay? And creativity spurns any kind of angle and look, and we kind of looked through this to see what would be beneficial for licensees to be able to use their space limited platform, because that's important. People are on Twitter now, people are on these space limited platforms, so we wanted to give you that mechanism, but we also wanted to maintain consistency with the law so that folks would still be able to contact your broker and have that information readily available. So that was kind of what generated the one-click, and there's more to it that we'll be going through. So I'll turn it back over.
Actually, Drew, can you go back to the previous slide just for 1 second? I wanted to, executive director touched on one word that I want to focus on, because we have been asked this periodically. A question that I've been asked is there a difference between marketing and advertising? I don't need to comply with all of those requirements. This is just the homepage of my website. I'm just marketing, my business generally. I'm not advertising a specific property. Would you say there's a distinction, or I don't want to say loophole, that's not the right word, but is there a distinction for, purposes of these updates? Is there a distinction between marketing in general and advertising a specific property?
I would submit there isn't, because are you going to turn away somebody who says, oh, I looked on your site and, I'm interested in doing business with you. I want you to provide real estate brokerage services. Oh, well, no, you saw it on this site, so no, I can't deal with you. You've got to go to this site. I would submit that they all need to comply, because, if I called you at 9:30 at night and said I'm interested in a property, you're going to tell me no? No, you're going to say, hey, okay, fine, let's talk tomorrow morning. So I would say that, all of those things fall under the law.
Right. Good. Yes, I agree. We're on the same page there. Yeah. I mean, the purpose of having your website or those marketing materials, whatever they may be, it's to solicit people so you can provide real estate brokerage services for them. So I think I would agree. That's the guidance that we've given people as well. All right. I'm sorry. That's all I wanted to just touch on, that one thing for that slide.
Yeah. So moving on, the biggest change in the updated rules is with electronic media advertising, and obviously what we've known as the one-click rule. So we've gotten a lot of questions about it. There's a big stir around these changes, but ultimately, as Michael said, it's for the sake of transparency, for the sake of getting in contact. So any electronic media advertisement shall contain the applicable disclosures set forth in section G2 and G3 of this regulation. We already went over those applicable disclosures. Kathleen had gone over those earlier in the presentation. So all of that required information, those applicable disclosures, must be on the first 25% of the main page of the electronic media advertisement, or if the electronic media advertisement has a limitation of 280 characters or fewer, on the first 25% of a page that is accessible after a single click on a hyperlink on the main page of the electronic media advertisement. So what the commission did here is broke it down into two sections. If the advertisement is on a platform that has 280 characters or less, so there's a limit, then the one-click rule applies. If the advertisement is on a platform that allows for more than 280 characters, the one-click rule does not apply, and all that required information must be there.
On the top 25% of the main page.
Exactly, on the top. So right in the beginning there. And so we'll go over a couple examples here. I'll let either of you add, but.
I was gonna say, did Mike, well, let's defer to the executive director here. Did you have anything you wanted to add to that? Or have you had any questions that people need clarification or guidance on this before we go to some specific examples? Do you have any general guidance?
No, I mean, that was very well put, Joe.
Okay, good.
Right.
Kathleen, how about you?
No, that's good. I wanted to just make sure we were all on the same page first. We did include a couple of examples here in our slide deck, so we wanted to go through some examples for you guys. We'll go through the Q&A and include a couple questions too, but we wanted to go through some of the questions that we've been asked already on our hotline or as we do classes. So Drew, you want to go ahead and start with some of the examples?
Yeah, so again, to reiterate, Twitter has a limit of 280 characters. Linda licensee tweets about a listing she has. Beautiful two-story walk-up in downtown Annapolis with 3 bedrooms and 2 full bathrooms, fully renovated kitchen and sizable backyard with a fire pit, a must-see. And then she includes a hyperlink. So is this permissible? It's under 280 characters. I put it in a character count and spit this back. So we're under 280 characters. This is a reasonable tweet. Is it permissible?
Should we make everybody vote in the Q&A? No,
No,
we won't. We won't.
We won't, but the answer is yes, as long as that fake hyperlink, yours would be a real hyperlink, takes you directly to a page showing all required brokerage information on the first 25% of the page. That is accessible after a single link. So what does that mean? When you click the link, what must show up at the top is all the information that is required under the advertising code. So it can't be a scroll down. It can't be click forward. It has to be present and viewable after one click. So yes, that's permissible as long as the hyperlink is also permissible, as long as the click, it takes
Also
you
compliant. Yeah.
compliant, excuse me. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. That's a good example.
Moving on, an Instagram bio has a limit of 150 characters. Larry Licensee Instagram bio says the following: experienced real estate professional with Larry Licensee team of Compass. Give me a call at whatever for your real estate needs. Is this permissible? Is this compliant? And the answer is no. So because there's a character limit of 150 characters in an Instagram bio, the one-click rule applies. So if you're using your bio to advertise that you are a realtor, then it must be compliant with the one-click rule. You would need a hyperlink that opens to a page that on the top first 25% has all of the required information. We get a lot of questions about, well, what about my personal Instagram? I post pictures of my kids, my life, but I also use it to post my listings or a story about a buyer, whatever. So if your bio is being used to advertise you as an agent, as a real estate, as a realtor in the area, whatever, then it must be compliant. That information must be there. If your bio just says, your name and your city, but you use the page, to actually post an advertisement, a listing, that post must be compliant. Your bio doesn't have to be. So it's broken up. The answer to this question about bio would depend on how you're using your bio, not necessarily how you're using the page. Any feedback on that, Kathleen or Michael?
Michael, did you have any thoughts on that? I would thought my best advice would be, if you're using your Instagram account for advertising at all, advertising real estate services, the best bet I would say is to include it in your bio, include all the information. I'm cautious. I wouldn't want to make a $2,500 mistake. So I think the best information would be to include it in the bio if you're going to be using it for advertising purposes. We'll defer to Michael. Did you have any thoughts on that or any guidance on that?
I would agree because, well, one, don't you want to market yourself to the maximum extent possible? And two, it gives you flexibility. So, I'm not on Instagram, but, the great example was given where somebody wasn't using their account for that purpose, but just out of the blue, they were excited about a property they were going to go see, and they said, "Hey, I'm going to an open house that I'm showing, and here's the address." And then all of a sudden, you've got an advertisement.
Right. Yeah. And so, to Kathleen's point, if you're going to mix advertisement and your personal account, put it in. And because your bio has that 150 character limit, there must be a link that follows the one-click rule.
Right. And then if they click on that link, whoever clicks on that link would see all of the required information in the top 25% of that page. Yeah.
The other question we got, or that I got just the other day about this, is Linktree. For those of you who aren't familiar, Linktree is a service that compiles all of your different links to your Twitter, to your Instagram, to your TikTok, to your Facebook, and then whatever links you have associated with your name that you want to put on your link tree will come up once you click the link to your link tree. That is not compliant. That would be 2 clicks. So a link tree is not compliant with the 1-click rule.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Drew. That seems like, I mean, the number 1 is pretty clear. And if it's more than 1 click, I would think it's not compliant. Again, Executive Director Kasnick, if you have any additional guidance or differing guidance on that, we'd be happy to hear it. But it seems to me that 1 click is not the same as 2 clicks.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, the thought was we really wanted you to be able to use these platforms because, you know, certain segment of the buyers are into this, and it's a good tool for you to use. But we also wanted them to have the information that they need under Maryland law. We didn't think 1 click was too much of a stretch.
So again, Twitter has a limit of 280 characters. Linda, licensee, tweets about a listing she has. Beautiful 2-story walk-up in downtown Annapolis, 3-bedroom, 2 full bathrooms, fully renovated kitchen, and sizable backyard. Call the Linda licensee team at 410 whatever today. Is this permissible? Again, there's that 280 character limit. She has some of the information in the tweet. It is not permissible. All of the required information is not permissible, and there's no hyperlink. So she would need that hyperlink, and the 1-click rule would apply.
Right. Let's just take a pause there for a second. What does she not have, everybody? What does she not have? Do we know what the name of the brokerage is? Do we see the broker's phone number? And do we see an individual licensee name? No, we see a team name. We don't see the licensee name. So, I mean, the point, of course, is there's not enough room to put all of that stuff there. That's why you need the link. But I don't know. I just thought a little exercise. We could go through it and see what is not included and why it is necessary to have the link.
And to piggyback off what Kathleen is saying, these are the little, a quick tweet about your property could get you in a lot of trouble, and could be an expensive mistake. And to an earlier question, a good point made that, if a broker had to sit and look at every single tweet that went out by every agent under them, of course, we don't, as Kathleen said, that might not be reasonable supervision. That might not be a reasonable step to take for a broker. But you have to provide this information. You have to have at least given them the tools to comply.
All right.
Another example here, Instagram captions have so again, this would be a post. You post a picture on your Instagram has a caption. That character limit is, oh, sorry, the answer popped up here, but has 2,200 character limit. So Linda licensee post a picture of a property with a long caption about the property. It's sure to sell quickly. There's even a bonus room, and click the link here. So she has that link. Is this compliant? The answer is no. The 1-click rule does not apply because there's 2,200 characters available. So the point is there's plenty of space to include all the required information within that advertising, and therefore it must be there prior to even clicking further, prior to that 1-click.
Right. That's a good point, Drew. I think just to think about the concept, I guess we should really think that the 1-click rule is really the exception. The rule should be that every advertisement, every marketing has all of the required information. The only exception would be if the platform, the app, whatever you want to call it, has a character limit of 280 or less. That's the only exception where you do not have to include all the information, but you do have to include the hyperlink, where with 1 click, the user will see all of the required information in the top 25% of that page.
So this is one Kathleen and I were going over yesterday, that we have a feeling will be coming up quite a bit. Larry licensee uses a yard sign with the brokerage name and phone number at the top of the main sign, and a team name and agent information on the hanging sign below. So as all of you know, a lot of times signs are in different formats, but a pretty standard format sign is a large for sale sign with the broker's name and phone number at the top. And then there can be those different attachments at the bottom that has, in this case, the team name and agent information. So is that compliant? Is that permissible under this new law? The answer is no. There can be no other word, symbol, or image between the team name and the brokerage name. This is assuming that the magic word is one of the magic words is also present, but that would be a pretty large space between the broker's name and information and then the team name and agent's name below on the hanging sign. There can be no other word, symbol, or image between the two. Any feedback there, Michael?
I'm trying to picture this because I read through it once and I got a different look. So
I could I was asked a question about this as well as Drew, and the way the question was asked to me was the brokerage has, you know, the large part of the yard sign. Basically, the brokerage, I guess, has those, or the way this company does it. All of the brokerage, all the company information is on the large part of the sign itself, right? It'll have the name of the brokerage, the office phone number. And then on the hanging part was the team name, the licensees, I think the licensee name, the team name, and then the other phone number. But I guess the question is, would that be considered directly connected? If it's, you know, two separate signs and there's, you know, a phone number in between. I think it was licensee name, team name, phone number on the bottom as well. Is that considered directly connected, and would that be compliant? And this could be, I mean, this is, I know you guys spend a lot of money on marketing and on signs. So that was what we just wanted to go through that one specifically. That has come up at least 2 times in the past couple of days.
And ultimately the answer, well, I guess it'll depend on Michael's response here, but the way we've interpreted the law is that unfortunately the signs would have to be reprinted because there's such a, you know, there's a symbol, there's a space between the two.
Yeah. That's not
yeah, I mean,
directly connected.
At this point, I would have to answer. There would have to be that there, and but I can take this back as a question. I mean, on its face, I view it as, yeah, it wouldn't, but we can look into that.
Maybe get some guidance. Okay.
Yeah, and yeah, as Kathleen said, you know, people spend a lot of money on this type of advertising, and so you know, it'll make a difference. Right.
And that's, again, to be fair, the question that we were asked was all of the required information was included. It wasn't someone who was just putting up their personal name, their team name, and their team phone number. The question, as Drew and I think we're both asked the same question, essentially. The name of the brokerage is there, the company name is there, the company phone number is there, the licensee name is there, the team name is there, the licensee's phone number is there. It's just not directly connected with, from, with, or at. So that was the question, really. So more to come on that. I guess we'll get an update from the commission on that, or some more clear guidance on that, which I know everybody will be looking forward to. All right. Did we have another example or a couple other little hypotheticals?
A couple other hypotheticals, and if we want to go through some Q&A.
Sure.
But on a Facebook post, the salesperson name and phone number are present, but the broker's is not. Is that compliant? At this point, we understand that that's not compliant. A Facebook post has a huge character count. And so again, as Kathleen said, the one-click rule is the exception. If you're able to post everything in 280 characters or more, then it must be there.
Right. Right.
The brokerage name and number are present, but the salesperson's is not.
Same situation. Exactly. If we're talking about any platform that has more than 280 characters available, you have to include all of the information, period.
Right. And then Kathleen, I'll pose the question a different way. If it's on Twitter, for example, 280 character limit, what information can be present? It could be the salesperson's name, it could be the broker's name, it could be any of the required information, so long as the rest is on what is in the hyperlink on the one click.
Correct. That's correct. That's my understanding anyway, if Michael wanted to clarify that. But yes, if you're on Twitter, there's a limit of 280. Clearly, you cannot put everything. You could say, you know, check out my new listing, and then put your name, your cell phone number, and the hyperlink, which brings the person characters or fewer. That's the only time that would be permitted. If it's more than that, all of the required information has to be there.
And then a situation where the hyperlink, assuming in a tweet or maybe an Instagram bio under 280 characters, the hyperlink takes you to an ad where the name of the team name is clearly displayed at the top, but the brokerage name and phone number are at the bottom of the page. So assuming there would be a scroll involved, that would not be compliant.
Right. Again, the place where you end up after you click on the hyperlink, whatever opens up where that takes you, all of the required information has to be included on the top 25% of that page. And again, Michael, if you want to clarify that, or I suspect you may have been asked a question or two about that already. If you have any additional guidance, we'd be happy to hear it.
Yeah, I just go back to you know, the perspective on it that I always take is, you know, you joined a brokerage for a reason, no matter what that reason was. So, and you can't do brokerage services except linked to that broker, because if you inactivate your license or transfer to another broker, you're no longer with the one broker, you're with a new broker. But always think of it as, you know, whatever you do in real estate with your license is linked to that broker and brokerage. And if you think of the advertising that way as well, then, you know, you wouldn't want to put it down at the bottom, because there's a reason you joined them. They gave you, you know, marketing benefits, they gave you a good compensation, you know, whatever it is that it is. And of course, they give you the ability to go out and perform real estate broker service. So connect them. And then, you know, as a consumer, you know, there won't be any issue in terms of, or any confusion on my part on who I need to call if I'm having an issue, or pay a compliment.
A compliment, right, right.
So there's over 100 questions. We obviously won't be able to get to all of them. We have limited time left, about 4 minutes left, but one good question: does the one-click rule, and I think we answered this, does the one-click rule mean you have to put broker information in every post text, or does the profile name cover that? So again, the one-click rule applies where it's very limited. Essentially, I don't know the character count on every form of social media. I probably don't even know every form of social media, but Twitter, to be exact, is 280 characters per tweet. And so that's called an abbreviated advertisement. And that abbreviated advertisement can have kind of any number, any combination of the required information, so long as all the required information is in a hyperlink that takes you in the first 25% to the rest of the information. So to answer that question, do you have to put the broker's info in every post? No, so long as that info comes up after the one click. I'm trying to get more broad questions.
Actually, let me just ask sort of a general question. And again, this Michael, I guess maybe more directed toward you. We've heard from, you know, many of our members and I'm sure you have as well. A lot of the brokerages offer, website templates for their agents. And this is the way we want our site to look. And this is great. We'll set this up for you. And it's kind of easy for you to set up your individual business page. And many of them are not compliant, to be honest. A lot of them have the individual agent information at the top. The individual agent's cell phone number would be at the top, and the brokerage name would be at the bottom. The broker's phone number would be at the bottom of that page. So they would have to scroll down, and all of the information is not readily available at the top 25% of the first page of the website. Do you have any thoughts or suggestions? Or actually, let me just ask about compliance. Is the real estate commission, if someone snitches on somebody else tomorrow and says their company name is at the very bottom of their page and you have to scroll down, Michael Kasnick, take action. Is there a grace period, or do you have any best practices, any recommendations for people who are faced with that situation?
So, I'd take it two ways. One, I would hope that the broker in those instances realizes, in the terms of looking over their licensees' ads, that they realize that theirs in fact is not compliant. But in terms of how complaints come to the real estate commission, we're a complaint-driven organization. Licensees send complaints to us. It's part of the fact. If you look up the elements of professionalism in online searches, you're going to find normally 6 elements, and one of them is policing your own, and that's also under Maryland law. Actually, just above the text that we're talking about here in advertising, licensee shall protect the public against fraud and all those things, but also shall endeavor to eliminate in the community any practices which could be damaging the public and the dignity and integrity of the real estate profession. So basically, police your own, and the mechanism to do that is to contact us and file a complaint. Whether you like to do that or not, that really is what's required. So taking a long way of saying you file a complaint, and then the other portion of that is, if it's particularly egregious, the commission has the ability to open complaints. Any commissioner can open a complaint. So, I'd leave it at that, but with the expectation that hopefully those brokers whose ads don't comply will do so on their own.
Thank you. I would just say the one last thing I would say is again, we're a member organization, and we don't, no disrespect, but we don't, the first step is never, we tell people to, run out and file a complaint with the real estate commission. Generally, what we would recommend, if I'm an agent and I see someone's sign is non-compliant, our legal hotline, the advice would generally be that, I would go speak with my broker, and my broker would contact the other agent's broker. And, hopefully they'd be able to work something out. You give the broker a heads up, one of your agent's signs is not compliant. The only thing I want to say, and as none of us want to be fined, or we don't want anyone to be fined, but I think the broker making the call to the second broker, you might have a little bit more leverage now. If there was a broker before who was ignoring it or not paying attention, now you can remind that broker that if a complaint is filed, the broker could be on the hook for, I would say, $3,500. Michael would remind me it's up to $5,000 for every non-compliant sign, not 5,000 total, but 5,000 for every violation. So if a broker is looking the other way or not taking action to correct something when it's brought to their attention, there could be a significant financial cost associated with that lack of action.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, as I said earlier, we don't seek out, we would prefer there not be any complaints and any violations. We would prefer that to be the case, and we would look for that to be the case in the future, or at least less, because we all live in the realistic world. But currently we get about 800. We're on track to get about 840 complaints this year, and if you look at that, it's about 1.6% of the licensee population, although some are against multiples against one individual. But we, again, the 1%, 1.6%, that kind of gives the ability to sleep at night. And I'll also say that every real estate transaction that I've ever had, I've dealt with a professional licensee who looked out for all the best interests and parties of concern. So I've always had a very positive experience. But we're here for those few who don't.
Right. I would agree. I think we're at the end of our time here. I don't know, Dan, do we, you want to say anything to wrap it up? Or Michael, do you want to add anything to wrap it up? I think we're I think we're good. We covered as many questions as we could. I think Dan has the ability to capture those questions. So if there's something that was not addressed during this webinar, we can respond to it afterwards. I think many of the questions are duplicative, or I don't mean that in an offensive way, but hopefully a lot of them were answered during the presentation. So we'll take a look at those and we can respond to those after. Did you want to wrap it up for us, Michael?
Yeah, I thought there were some really great questions there. So, you know, I'm sorry we don't have the opportunity to answer them directly, but, you know, I'm sure that Ms. Cortez and Mr. Kelly will take care of you. And of course, one thing I would say just before I close out on the real estate pieces, or on the advertising pieces, that there have been folks who've been trying to get in touch with us. For some reason, there's a number circulating out there that does not reach us, but it certainly sounds like a real estate commission number.
Oh.
Please use 6200 if you're trying to get in touch with us, 410-230-6200. And if you can't copy that down real quick or whatever, just go to our website. It's updated on our website. But there's an extremely old number that's in circulation out there, and we get frustrated customers saying, nobody answers, I can't leave a message. Don't use that number, and I won't tell you what it is, because then somebody will put it in somebody's head. But we're here to answer your questions and to process your transactions. That's what we're here for. So we want you to be able to get in touch with us, 6200. As far as the advertising, again, there is going to be an update on the advertising checklist that's been referred to a couple times, because there are some elements, some important elements that are missing from it, but we want to do it all at once. So I would expect within the next month or two, a new one will be published, and, you know, we won't keep that a secret. And I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to learn about this stuff.
Yeah, thank you to all of our members for coming.
And thank you all for this very important webinar. Yes, we will be forwarding all these questions, all 124 and counting, to our legal department. And thank you, Executive Director Kasnick, for your time. And for people who've been asking, yes, we will share this webinar with the slide decks and with an updated, hopefully soon, checklist from the MREC, and get that all out to you, along with some guidance that our legal department has provided too. So once again, thank you all very much. Our next webinar is going to be April 28th, working on some more fair housing issues in the digital age, and we hope you join us for that next week. Until then, thank you and goodbye. Bye, everybody.
Everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks.